All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me through this. I wanted to do a very brief wedding planner training assistant type thing, and I wanted to do it for several reasons. Number one, because I've worked with some of you already, and for those of you who listen to this call later on, working with us, it's kind of difficult to train or to advise someone in the midst of a wedding. So it's kind of easier if we have something where we can kind of just refer back to. And if anyone has any questions or anything like that, they can address, take a look at the webinar, and then we can go from there. And so this is something that I wanted to do for you guys as well as for me, so I'm not, repeating. And also for anyone who would come on later on working with us so that they can understand how we work, what's expected, and move on from there. So without further ado, and hi Roxanne, how are you? You're probably muted, so just wanted to say a quick hello. But without further ado, I will go ahead and get started with the training. So this evening, I just want to go over a couple things, what it is to, when I send you an email, basically, when you receive an email saying that there's a wedding and everything like that, just wanted to talk a little bit about the timeline and the planner, as well as what to do upon arriving at a wedding, as well as the duties of the assistant. We're normally staffed with a wedding planner and a wedding planner assistant, and depending on the wedding size and what's required of the company, we might have more people that day. So we're going to talk about the duties of the wedding planner assistant, as well as the don'ts when it comes to guests, to the staff, to items in particular, and that's something I'm I'm going to stress a lot this evening on the call. We're going to talk a little bit about conflict and whether it's you have questions or comments or concerns will be addressed at the end. Also, at the very end, and I'll send you guys an email as well, there will be a link to a survey that everyone should and needs to complete. And basically, it's just letting me know that you were listening, that you heard what I said, and that, we're all on the same page, all right? And it's not a long quiz. It's about 5 questions the most. Okay, so talking about confirming a wedding. Usually you receive an email. WP means wedding planner. WPA means wedding planner assistant. So you're going to see that throughout the slide. You receive an email that is requesting your services and help for a specific date. And it's going to tell you the type of work that's indicated in the email, whether it's a wedding or a conference. Mostly what we do is wedding, so it's going to say basically wedding. In the subject, and I'm very, if you ever notice any emails that you get from me when it comes to clients directly, I always put the bride and the groom's last names, their wedding, and their wedding date. And then in the body of the email, I always put with the wedding time, the wedding location, and your expected time of arrival. So depending on what they requested from us and how many people we have staff for that day, I'm going to indicate everyone has their own individual expected time of arrival. Once the wedding planner assistant confirms availability, it's important not to cancel. And we do understand that things do arise, but if you do need to cancel, if you can cancel within a week in advance, that'll be awesome. Granted, stuff happens, so if you have to cancel, just letting me know, the wedding planner know immediately, so that at the end of the day, and you guys have worked weddings, some of you work weddings with me enough to know that you need at least 2 people to do it successfully. And depending on the size, you might need a little bit more. So cancellations, it is pretty big, but at the same time, I do understand that things happen. So if you need to cancel, letting me know at least, in a good amount of time in advance so that we can restaff or figure something out with for that day. So that's confirming a wedding. The timeline and planner. I never did this before, but we're going to start doing this now, where we're going to start sending not just the timeline, but also the planner for the wedding. And usually you'll see the planner in the book that, the wedding planner I carry around, with the timeline and the seating chart and all those different type of things. I usually keep the master copy of the planner in there, but I'm also going to start sending it to everyone just so you can have an idea of what is expected and have an even better idea as to what's going to be happening that day. So you'll receive the timeline and the planner at least 1 week in advance. And we all know that I try to send it in a reasonable amount of time, but a part of me sending the planner to you guys and the timeline is the client is required to approve it. So whenever you see the timeline, by the time you've gotten it, you better believe the client has approved it. Like they've said that this is exactly how I want my day to go. And anything and everything on there is correct. So once they confirm it, which we try to get them to confirm and finalize at least, honestly, 2-3 weeks before their wedding, but sometimes it runs over, that helps me to give it to you 1 week in advance. And so the planner is usually ready about 30 days out, but the timeline is what usually takes a little bit of time. So you'll start receiving the timeline and the planner. I expect you guys to just take a look at the planner. If you have any questions or concerns, of course, shoot me an email. Let me know, I don't understand this, or what does this mean? Be more than happy to help you get more clarity. If there are any updates regarding the timeline specifically, I will, and you've seen me do this before in the past as well, I will send a follow-up email saying this is the new timeline. There's been some changes. That means that the client basically last minute decided to do something or add something, take something away, and now we have to revise the timeline and we resend it to everyone. I do expect everyone to bring a copy of the timeline, not the planner, but the timeline. And it's just like, like it says in the PowerPoint, it just shows that everyone has at least looked at it. If, you're going to print it out, more than likely you're going to glance at it. And it has an idea as to how the day is going to go and what's expected and different things like that. So I do expect everyone to bring a copy of the timeline itself, which usually is about 2 pages front and back. Okay? Upon arriving, wedding planner assistants are expected to arrive at least 15-20 minutes ahead of schedule. And I only say that because we're always kind of like bouncing around doing things. So if you can arrive just a little bit early to just kind of like refresh yourself, get an idea of what's needed, and we can get jumped into everything, that's what I would like to see happen is everyone just arriving a little bit more early, like just 15-20 minutes. Now, I'm not talking to anyone in specific, but I'm just saying just for in general. And upon arrival, locating the wedding planner, which would be myself, or when we have another wedding planner, the wedding planner, and complete, like, basically, once you arrive, you do a site inspection, especially if you've never seen this location before. It's just important that you kind of, like, take a look around, walk around, get a familiarity with your surroundings. Again, take a look at your planner, get an idea of the planner, where things are in correlation to the planner, because they kind of, like, correlate with each other. Okay, so just wanted to go over and touch about arriving, how we work. So this doesn't apply to every wedding planner assistant. You'll see that you'll get an expected time of arrival, or I expect you to arrive at 2, but that doesn't mean that I'm not there. Maybe I'm there at 11 a.m., but I don't expect you to arrive at 2. But generally, for standard for weddings, just for your information, we arrive 4 hours prior to the ceremony start time, and it's according to the invitations. So if their invitation is says 3 o'clock, but they don't expect to arrive until 4 o'clock, we arrive 3 hours prior to 3 o'clock, not 4 o'clock. okay? One of the first things that is like priority with weddings specifically is making sure that the ceremony and the cocktail hour set up at least 1 hour prior to the start time. And then, of course, we're setting up the reception as we go throughout within that time period. But little things such as favors and different things like that, they are not as a priority in the beginning, because once the ceremony starts, we can easily kind of go back and backtrack that type of things, like putting place cards or putting favors on the plates. Those things are very simple and easy. But mainly the priority is making sure that the ceremony and the cocktail are presentable and ready for guests, because we all know that guests tend to arrive anywhere from 30 minutes, maybe sometimes they arrive an hour ahead of time. And we just want to make sure that it looks great for them. Duties. What is expected of the wedding planner assistant? Basically, duties are written. And some of you may have seen me do this from time to time. Initially, I thought it was a good idea to do duties and send it to you with the timeline. But in reality, duties have to be done when we're actually there, because I can see what I need to write out, what needs to be done, what hasn't been done, and it's just an easier checklist to start and to work with versus sending you this long list, and then by the time you come, maybe half of it is complete or different things like that. So everyone will get, and like I said, you've seen this before, a handwritten duties list, and it just has different things, like maybe when the ceremony starts, go to the reception and put all the favors on the plate. That's what I mean by duties. I do expect everyone to just basically stick to the script, to the duties, unless otherwise noted. And I always like to say, I want to just point this out as well, is that when we give the duties to the assistants, it's basically, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. You don't necessarily have to say, oh, can I or should I? Just go and do it. Especially if you notice that it's super, super busy, just go and do it and just give a heads up that, oh, I'm going to go take care of this. And I'll be in heaven for that. Peak moments. Again, this isn't something that I've had an issue with anyone, but just in case for future references and everything like that, everyone knows the peak moments are ceremony start times, ceremony ending times, cocktail reception, that shuffle in between it, the reception, meaning helping guests find their seats. If need be, especially if you notice that the wedding planner is very, very busy doing something else, if need be, and we're trying to get the reception started, we're trying to get everybody seated, close the bar. I do it all the time. You have my complete authority to close the bar so that we can get this party started. The reception, bridal party entrance, those are also peak moments. Dinner being served, making sure that it's served on time and everything like that. That is peak moments. Special entertainment, like if they're doing a hora loca and we need the dancers and the dancers need to get dressed and we have to go set up a candy table, those are peak moments. And I beg you, whomever, not to disappear during those moments. I haven't had a problem with it, but just in case. It's just very important that during these moments that everyone is just hands on deck and just ready to keep everything rolling. We do have downtime, as well as everybody knows. So once guests are eating or dancing, it's major downtime. I don't have issues with people taking breaks or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I completely understand. I'm a different person. I can go and go and go. But the only thing I ask is that when, again, going back to the not disappearing, if you need to take a break, just let me know. Just let the wedding planner know, 10 minutes, oh, I need 10 minutes, or I need to go take a break. So just so we can know where everyone is and not assume that maybe the person left or something like that, God forbid. During downtime, once we're done eating, once you've taken a break, if there's still a lot, we do light cleanup, like if we notice something in the ceremony needed to be picked up or something in the cocktail hour, that's when we kind of go back and get those items if we didn't have a chance to do it prior to that, okay? So the biggest thing about this call for me tonight is the don'ts. And this is kind of like something that is a work in progress and is developing because of the different experiences we've been going through. And so I mean, the most common one, never had a real issue with it. No dancing on the dance floor. Don't get jiggy with it, please. It's not your party, even if they insist. We eat separately from the guests. We have had instances where it's a big room and everyone has to eat at the same table, and that's the exception. But pulling up a chair and, like, you know, chatting it up, no, that's not cool. We don't hang out at the bar. We do understand that the bar is sometimes the only place to go get a drink of water, and that's perfectly fine. And I only ask that when you do that to go off to the side, don't necessarily go standing in the line or anything like that or getting in front of people. If we can just stand to the side and just wait for the service. And you guys know, if you've done weddings with us before, that it's really, you know, the servers are more than accommodating. They'll serve you, they'll serve the next person, and they'll turn to you and say, what do you need? But getting in line and all that stuff, we're not a part of the party. It's just making sure that we distinguish that we're not a part of the party. Treat or dessert tables, we don't join like the rest. I mean, we do indulge from time to time, but it's usually after, like after, not while everyone's there, you know, filling up their bags with candy and treats. We're not there filling up our bags with candy and treats too. Like, that's a no. Sitting, if your feet hurt, the only thing I think is very acceptable is if we kind of find an area. And granted, we kind of roll with the punches when we're doing weddings, because sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. So if it's off to the side or something like that, we don't necessarily go and sit at a table, sit on a table or anything like that, put our feet up or anything like that. Like, those are all no's. No, no, red flag, don't do that. But everything has to be, and I request everything to be very discreet, honestly. Taking leftover items. So we all kind of, you know, if there's leftover flowers, different things like that, we take it. My only thing now is that I've noticed is that we probably should start doing this at the very end. At the very, very end. When I say the very end, I mean the very end, only because it was just brought to my attention, and we need to kind of give everyone the opportunity to take it. Even if one or two people says no, we have to kind of like almost want them to take it, and then everyone just says no. And then at the end, if it's something, then we can. Otherwise, if it's a situation where it's like, oh my God, I gotta go, you just have to go, because we can't be in the middle of the party, you know, kind of collecting items for ourselves and different things like that. Like, and it's never really happened before, but just as a precautionary for everyone, if there is leftover flowers or there's leftover favors, and we all know that what happens in the end is it goes in the trash. So why waste something good, right? But at the same time, if we're going to take something, it has to be at the very, very end, and every guest has to have the opportunity to say no, basically. And then after that, once it's all cleared out and everything, and it's all, you know, it's either go to the trash, or if someone wants to be kind enough to take it away, by all means. Granted, there are situations where we've had clients who say, here, this is for you. In that case, I mean, it's a different story. But as far as like other weddings where that's not necessarily happening, we just have to be mindful of that, okay? Okay, this is like the big thing that's killing me right now. Don't touch the money, the cards, the birdcage under no circumstances. Don't accept any cards from guests to place in the gift box under no circumstances. We're having an issue with that as we speak. And we're going through it, meaning we're not liable, and it says in our contract that we're not liable for any kind of damages, theft, or anything like that. But that still doesn't dispute the fact that if something like that happens, the client, even though they've read it in the contract, they're still going to come and expect us to kind of have a response to it, or say that we will take care of it, or we will be responsible for it, even though it says in the contract we're not responsible for it. So as a precautionary to everyone and anyone who is working with out-of-box weddings, the rule is we do not touch it, not even me. We do not touch it. Once there's a card in there, the first card goes in there, we don't touch it. We don't accept any cards from the guests. Again, I'm going to repeat it again because I need to. At the end of the evening, or if we have to move that box, we have to get the maid of honor or the mother of the bride and ask them politely to come and, can you please come and get the box? That's the only way. We won't pick it up. And you just let them know. And on the back end, as a wedding planner, what we're going to do when we're meeting with our clients, we're going to let them know that once there's a card in your card box, your birdcage, we don't touch it. So we need to know who's the designated person, that if it has to be moved, who is it that we need to, pull from the party so that they can move it. Because I don't want what's happening right now to ever happen again. I will say this, we cannot make any mistakes on this. And I feel very passionately about it when I say that anyone who accepts a card or is seen with a money box or birdcage will be asked to leave. Like, I have to. And I love you, but I have to because of just the drama that is happening right now because of it. Okay? Cleanup. At the end, we make sure that all the personal items, and you know what this is, it's like the cake cutting and stuff like that, is placed in one area. And they'll retrieve it from there. We don't necessarily organize things, but we just make sure that anything that the couple wanted to have returned to them for sure, whether it was a favor or something like that, a centerpiece, we just put it all in one area, and they go and get it from there. We don't deliver to cars and all that different type of stuff. We don't take anything home and deliver it unless otherwise noted, which we just don't do that. Everything is at the end of the evening. We don't take anything home for clients and then deliver it to them the next day. No, we don't do that. Anything that we bring, and there's usually a list, or we just let everybody know this is our items. Any sub-rentals such as linens, glasses, flatware, anything like that that we out of box has brought from our vendors for the client, we have to make sure that we get that back, everything back. Because what happens on the back end is if we don't, let's just say one of the clients' guests decides to take a linen or a runner, we have to pay for that. Out-of-box weddings is now going to get charged the cost for that linen. So it is our job to make sure that anything that we as a company bring to a wedding or an event, we take it back as well. And if you see anyone kind of like trying to creep something, just kind of, let the wedding planner know, let me know, and we'll address it from there, okay? So I do want to talk about conflict. Again, this isn't something that we've had an issue with directly, but if it does happen, everyone knows what to do. So if there is an issue that arises, such as language, someone is being very rude or inconsiderate, fighting, anything that's physical, someone touches you, I don't care if they point at you, it's not cool, alert the wedding planner immediately. It's in our contract, and I want everyone to know this. It is in our contract that that type of behavior is not allowed or tolerated. And if something like that happens, we leave. So if someone touches one of my assistants, volunteers, me, the wedding planner, I pack my stuff up and I get out of Dodge because, number one, that's not cool. And if it gets really, really out of hand, I call the police. That's just how it's going to have to go. We haven't had an issue of it, but just so everyone's on the same page again, and we all know what to do. Any questions? I'm going to take you guys off mute and pray I don't hang you up. Oh, goodness. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Jessica?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what's next? Complete the survey. Everyone has to do it. Why? Because I want to add it to everyone's file that they did listen to this call, they were a part of it, and that they understand what we're talking about here. So the survey is going to determine that. I'm going to send you a link to the survey. This is the link right here. I'm also going to send it to you in your email in a few minutes, so you can look out for that. And because I like to do things like this, you'll probably get a certificate of completion as well once we receive the survey. Any questions, guys? See, that was harmless.
Hey, Simone, it's Rox.